The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight's guest is Elie Rubinstein, a very good friend of mine. Welcome to the show, Elie.
Thank you.
Okay, so Elie, we've known each other since, 2013?
2003.
2003.
Yes.
I added 10 years to it.
Absolutely.
So it's a long time, but we first met, and you're the first person I ever knew who I became friends with that actually was born in another country. Isn't that weird? I mean, I consider you a very close friend. So you were born in Russia, right?
Well, actually, I was born in Belarus, as many people call it White Russia.
White Russia. And again, geography was not my strong point. Is that like on the eastern side or the western?
Yes, it's on the eastern side. It's between Russia itself and Poland.
Okay. So, and how far back do your generations back do you have?
Well, look, I cannot tell you for sure,
Right.
but I know that my great-grandparents lived there,
Right.
my grandparents, parents,
Right.
and obviously I was born there,
Right.
otherwise you wouldn't hear my accent.
Right, exactly.
And as people say, if you come to the country after a certain age, you will have your accent until you die.
Right.
So I came to this country when I was in my 20s already.
Right.
Obviously, even if I wanted, not that I do, to change my accent to become more Americanized, it would be difficult to do. Plus, living in New York, when everyone has an accent,
Right, that's true.
I see it as an advantage rather than a problem.
So when you were in Russia, Belarus, it was part of the USSR at that time.
Sure.
Right? So what was it? I mean, did you go to college there also?
Yes. I graduated from college.
Right.
And living in the former Soviet Union, as I call it, or
Right.
SSR, USSR,
Right.
was to some extent fun. Let me tell you, as in any place, you do have some problems, certain problems, but now, and I think that's an advantage for people who emigrate from one country to another when they already, let's say, in their 20s, 30s, etc., they can compare lives in both countries.
Right.
And it's obviously makes you understand and be aware of many different things.
So how would you describe the education that you received in Russia? Do you think it's better in certain ways than the education?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, it's more structured.
Right.
Education is more structured. People go to school, and usually people go to school. We're talking about school goes from the first grade to the 10th grade.
Right.
And at that time, it's difficult for me to say how it is now, but at that time, you go to school when you're 7 years old, and you graduate from school when you are 17.
Mm-hmm.
People go to the same school all 10 years.
Oh.
So the school has first graders, second, etc., and the 10th graders.
Mm-hmm.
Usually people go to school based on geography on a location. So let's say this area, this is your school, if you live in this area. Yes, as in the United States, there are some magnet schools, there are some good programs, but you do need to take some exams to get there. What also makes kind of interesting, and I think that's a good part, a lot of extracurriculum activities, like different sports, different, let's say, chess, checkers, and different sport activities for children were provided for free because the government takes care of it.
Right.
It's not like here in the United States when you have to pay.
Right.
And if you are coming from the family that has resources and children can enjoy it, that's one thing. But if the family is, let's say, low middle class and they struggle to do it, it's a different story.
Right. So, did you? Why did you leave? I mean, what was the impetus for you to leave
Well,
Russia?
I would say to be a Jew
Right,
in the former Soviet Union wasn't a blessing.
right. So there was issues about
Yes,
being a Jew.
there was an issue of being a Jew, and mainly the issue was if you're a Jew.
Yes.
And you know what? I would say it's kind of like a full circle. On one hand, if you're a Jew, you have problems getting to the good school, good university, because there was a percentage of how many Jews could be admitted to the university.
Right.
If you're a Jew, you graduate from university, and you probably cannot get the best possible job, even if you are qualified. In return, so on one hand, we look at it and we say, well, that's terrible, absolutely.
Right.
At the same time, as I said, it's kind of full circle. But and I always kind of try to put myself into the shoes of other people.
Right.
But think about the following. If you, a non-Jew, you live in the former Soviet Union, and everyone who lives in the former Soviet Union at that time doesn't have the opportunity to leave the country, except Jews. Because Jews could leave the country if they had some relatives and blah, blah, blah.
Were
So
they
now,
allowed to come back?
well, to leave the country and not to come back, obviously.
right.
And if you are, let's say, you are in charge of the human resources
Right.
of some place,
Right.
and you're thinking about whom to hire for the job. And you have me, who is Jew, and you, who is not.
Right.
You think, well, based on the qualification, this guy is better, but who knows, maybe in 6 months he will come to me and says, you know what, I have an aunt in Tel Aviv, and I got the official paper, and I'm leaving the country.
Right.
Why would I hire this person? So in a sense, it was kind of difficult to say what was first, what was second.
Right.
It's like when we talk about what was the first hen or egg.
Right, exactly.
So
What came first? So
Right.
the other thing, okay, so when did you, is it 4 years of college also?
no, 5 years.
5 years of
5
college?
years of college.
Oh, wow.
5 years of college. Then again, you finish the college,
Right.
and at that time, government finds you a job.
Right.
It's not like you.
So did you get a job?
Sure.
What was your job, your initial job after college?
Well, the initial job after college, I finished the college with a degree in engineering,
Right.
and my major was heat power stations, and I got the job in an organization that provided some automatic system for heat power stations.
See, I never knew this. This
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that one thing my father always says is, he's known me for 61 years. We've never talked about things.
And by the way, let me tell you also,
Yes.
I hated the job.
Really?
Hated. And that's kind of interesting. I think it's very relevant to mention.
Yes.
I was graduating from my school in 1982. In the former Soviet Union, there was a system that if you graduate school
Right.
and you go to a college, you are not going to be subscribed to the army. Okay?
Right.
If you don't go to college, or when you don't pass the exams, as I told you, it wasn't so easy to pass the exam,
Right.
you can get into the army. Now, we all know the history. 1982 was Afghanistan war that Soviet Union put the army there,
Right.
and I would have a pretty good chance to end up there.
Right.
So obviously, neither myself nor my family wanted to entertain this wonderful idea.
Right.
And I was trying to get into the college, more or less being sure that I will get there.
Right.
Not exactly what I would like to do.
Right.
I was very interested in history and some humanitarian work
Right.
over there, but I knew that probably I wouldn't be able to get to where I want. And I will end up in Afghanistan doing humanitarian work.
Right.
That's not
Yeah.
what I wanted to do,
Right.
believe me.
Exactly.
So I went to where it was easier to get.
Right. So when did Chernobyl happen? What year was that?
Well, actually, it happened in 1986,
Okay.
and this year was a what 30th
Oh, so it is. Oh,
anniversary
so
of
I didn't even realize that.
Chernobyl.
Wow.
Right, right.
Yes.
And Chernobyl happened not far
Right.
from the place when I was living.
And you were working as an engineer at that time?
Yeah, I was working as an engineer at that time, actually.
So what happened?
Well, listen, what happened? Happened that one day, the weather was, I remember that day because, I was outside, meeting with friends, walking, and there was like rain, kind of strange a little bit, and that's it. But then after couple days, I had a fever, I had a high temperature, and my parents were doctors. And I forgot to mention to you.
I didn't know. Your parents were doctors?
Yeah, but interestingly enough.
I never knew that.
Right. Interestingly enough, my whole family,
Yes.
doctors. My grandfather was a doctor. He was, as a matter of fact, a professor of microbiology, and he was director of Medical Institute, medical school in the former Soviet Union.
New stuff for me. I didn't know
Yeah.
this.
My father was a doctor.
What
my
kind of
mother-
doctor was your father?
He was like not a practitioner, like sanitation doctor,
Okay.
more or less.
Yes.
And my mother was general practitioner.
GP? Yes.
Right,
Okay.
right. So my brother, who is also lives in the United States right now,
Yes.
he's also a doctor,
Right.
and was there. He was a pediatrician.
Right.
Here he's a nurse.
Yeah, my brother's a pediatrician, though.
Right. His wife was a doctor.
Wow.
Here she is a nurse. Actually, my wife, when we met there, she was finishing her dental school.
I didn't know that either.
Right.
Wow.
Well, and she works now in Department of Health as a microbiologist. So close to that.
So it rained.
Yes.
Right? And what happened?
Well, nothing.
I mean, you got sick for a while, right?
Yeah, for a few days. And I remember that because my parents were doctors, they brought me to the hospital because already at that time, rumors started that something happened, but nobody knew what exactly. I mean, look, the former Soviet Union has a pretty good, apparatus to keep the rumors not spreading and kind of close it. So in a sense...
And who was in charge of Russia at that time?
At that time,
Was it Gorbachev?
I think 86, probably not. I think it was Chernenko.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Chernenko. I think Gorbachev came a year or two late, but he was already on the rise.
So, okay, so you were already married when this happened.
Yes.
Any kid? No kids yet.
No.
Right.
When Chernobyl happened, I wasn't married.
Oh, you weren't married?
No.
No.
No, I married in 92.
Oh, 92.
6 years later.
Right. In Russia or in the United States?
In Russia, in Belarus.
Okay, so in Belarus. So you stayed, so let's go back to my other question. When did you decide, your whole family moved, right?
Yes.
What made that decision? Obviously it was related.
Well, it was related to a number of factors.
Right.
Chernobyl was obviously one factor. Another factor was, as I told you, I became an engineer, not because I wanted to become an engineer, because I needed to become an engineer, not to be subscribed to the army and end up somewhere.
Exactly.
But I like to do some more humanitarian things. I like to do more things like history, etc., etc.
Right.
And again, in Russia there was no like a social work, but something similar like that. As I also mentioned to you before, in the former Soviet Union, government provided free classes for different enrichment activities for children. And I remember as my grandfather brought me to the chess school. And I was, as long as I remember myself, maybe like from 6 years old, 7 years old, I played chess.
Right.
And almost like every day I would go to chess school that wasn't far from the place where we lived and participate. Now, in my school, there were only like 1 or 2 Jewish students in my class. In a chess school, as you can imagine, there were probably 1 or 2 non-Jewish students in the class. And by interacting with them, some of them came from Refuseniks families. And when you are like,
And what's a Refusenik?
Well, Refuseniks, this is the people who wanted to live former Soviet Union
Right.
because they had the invitations, blah, blah, blah. But they couldn't because for some reason government said, well, you possess some secrets and we don't want you to live.
I see.
Again, it's a different story. Did they possess or it was just they didn't want?
Right.
Who the hell knows?
Right.
Anyway, so they were like from those families. And the system was the following, that if you wanted to live, you would lose your job, you would lose all of the things that you have.
All your assets? Or?
Well, not all, but if you don't have the jobs that,
Right.
let's say if you were an engineer,
Right.
okay? So in order for you to apply to live, just to apply,
Right.
you have to go to your workplace,
Right.
present the papers, and they know that you're planning to live. So basically you're finished in that job.
Right.
Then the government refuse you living, you already kind of lost your job, and you don't want to end up with nothing,
Right.
so you might go and work somewhere, you know, like on a low scale position just to bring the paycheck.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
So that's kind of, it was a lot of hardship for those families.
Right.
But again, interacting with children, many of them became my friends. I kind of became more involved in this. And the whole process, like, let's say, for example, I want to live, former Soviet Union,
Right.
okay? And I need to get the invitation. How can I get the invitation? You know, I cannot write in the newspaper, Elie Rubinstein is looking to get invitation
Right.
to leave Russia. Of course not.
Right.
So somebody has to send me the invitation from Israel. How can I connect myself
Right.
to the right person or the right organization that can produce this invitation? I will need to go or to connect somebody, let's say in a synagogue. There was one synagogue in Minsk.
And it was Minsk. that
Yeah,
you lived in, yes.
Belarus. It was the capital of Belarus, Minsk.
Yeah.
And usually the foreign tourists who happen to be Jewish
Right.
from the United States, from Europe, from all over the world, would come to the synagogue, and before they came to the former Soviet Union, they will be instructed that if you have some people who would like to leave and they'll give their names, take the papers, bring it back.
Right.
Okay? So again, if I want to live, obviously I might be reluctant to go to the synagogue because I know that some KGB agents might be around making picture of who is going there.
Right.
So I'll find somebody like Elie Rubinstein, who is 14 years old, who is a kid, and I will ask him, can you go there, and this is my name, this is my address, and pass it on to some foreign tourist.
Right.
So I was doing it. Then also with my friends, we distribute some books that those tourists would bring to the former Soviet Union
So that's like
about
almost the
Jewish
beginning
life.
it's almost the beginning of your humanitarianism.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, absolutely. So that's how you do it. So then when Perestroika began, I finally could say, hell with my job, and I started working in the Minsk in Belarus in a Jewish organization.
Oh.
Yes, and that was a lot of fun. We organized different seminars, we organized different programs for the Jewish community, and it was a lot of fun.
Right.
But then I kind of looked at it and I said to myself, okay, so right now there is perestroika, there is a good climate out there, but it's not going to be forever. You know, after summer, winter is coming.
That's right.
So I kind of felt that it's going to be at one point some problems. And when I had the opportunity, I said I would like to live.
So, did you study English at all when you were in Russia?
A little,
Right.
obviously not the same way.
Right.
I did study English because when a lot of foreign tourists would come to Minsk, I would be translating,
Right.
I would be explaining. But again, listen, it's obviously completely different things.
Because Eileen, was that her name?
Yeah.
You introduced me to one of my assistants a few years back. She said that you were the best writer
Thank you.
that she ever. And what school did she went to NYU or something?
Yeah.
I mean, she said you were the best writer she had ever worked with or known. She said that,
I know.
and that's in English,
Right.
and obviously
listen.
English was the second language for you.
Well, yeah, but I can tell you that I think now in English. for many years. It's not like I'm thinking in Russian and trying to translate back and forth.
But still, with everything, including grammar and everything, and being able to deliver
Thank
a punch with your writing.
Thank you.
It's just, thank Eileen.
So you
She's the one who, that's the quote.
You know what, and I can also tell
Yes.
that you are my role model.
Really?
In many cases. I will tell, and I'm sure that people who watching the program would love to know that when I met you first time,
Yes.
you were running.
Oh, that's true.
You would come to work with sneakers
That's true.
because you ran in
the
morning.
Right. I used to run
I
at 4
know.
o'clock in the morning.
I know. And, you know, when I was kind of meeting you, talking about it, I couldn't understand why. And then at one point I started running myself, and I did a couple marathons in New York, a few half marathons outside the United States, and I kind of enjoy it. So that's kind of one thing.
Right.
Another thing, you always talk to me about your Hollywood experience.
That's true.
And how entertaining and how great it was.
Yes.
And knowing how you turned your career more into Hollywood and more into this wonderful things was kind of, I was looking at from the side, and then the opportunity came, and I want to thank you for this, you know, participating in different movies you produce.
And I appreciate it. No, Elie, even though we don't see each other that often, but we're seeing each other more,
Sure.
I really do consider you one of my best friends, and definitely one of the smartest people I know on Earth. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean,
The Earth is a small place.
I know. Maybe Mars, they're smarter people. But no, I'm just, and you're so quick-witted. I mean, even in our little projects that we do together, you're a very funny guy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So you come to the United States, right?
Yes.
How'd you, I mean, did you come with the entire family?
Well, I came with my wife and her family.
Yes.
My parents and my brother's family stayed because as a son to my parents, as a brother to my sibling, I needed to invite them myself when I'm here.
Oh, I see.
They
So-
couldn't come just because
And
they
that's
wanted to
interesting, because when my parents also came, it was like one at a time. They
Right,
came, and
right.
not my parents, my grandparents. And that was at like the beginning of the 20th century. Still, one came, and then they brought
Sure,
the other people, and then slowly but surely the entire family came over. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. So we came here, and I would say probably to the advantage, the first place where we came was Cincinnati, Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't come to New York.
I didn't know that.
Right. And
Is there a large Jewish community in Cincinnati?
there is a Jewish community, but also Cincinnati is like a German city because it was built by the German Americans.
Right.
Very interesting city. Not like New York.
Right.
You know, it's like 9 o'clock in the evening. You don't see people on the street. You know, I remember it's kind of funny. Like when we just came, and we tried to understand what the names of the streets are, and what we saw on all the streets, like speed limit 30.
Right.
So we thought maybe it's the name of the street. So, you know.
That's fun. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I guess that's how it is, right? I mean, it's like
yeah.
another planet, right?
Yeah, and people like after 9 o'clock, they eat popcorn, they eat pizza, they watch TV. 10 and 30.
Did you have a job when you got here?
Well, when we came here, the Jewish community in Cincinnati kind of sponsored us.
Right.
So they provided like 3 months to study English.
Right.
And then you're on your own.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough because I worked in the Jewish community in the former Soviet Union. I was fortunate enough to find 2 part-time jobs. One part-time job was at Hillel Jewish Student Center at University of Cincinnati, and another one was across the street at Hebrew Union College in admission office.
Cool. So you were luckier than most, but
yeah,
you make your own luck. But that's a different situation.
Thank you. Thank you. So I had these 2 part-time jobs, but also kind of it helps you in the beginning, but then you ask yourself, what would you like to do? Again, I didn't want to become an engineer, you know, just to do something that you don't want to do, you know. Didn't feel like it.
And I know, so I do know that you did go to graduate school.
Yes.
Is this around the time that you went to graduate school?
Yeah. So, like when I came after a few months, I started looking at my options, and I applied to a different school, different graduate school, because I had my first degree in the former Soviet Union. and I went to Brandeis University.
Great school. My
Great
daughter,
school.
my daughter almost went there, but she decided to go to Wesleyan. But that was the school that they really wanted her, and we wanted her to go because we said, oh, she'd meet a nice Jewish boy. But anyway.
But I went to graduate school, not
Right.
undergraduate.
But still, it's a great school.
It's a great school.
Right.
And
What did you study?
Well, I studied management at Heller School
Right.
and also Jewish Communal Service.
Wow. And you got
And-
masters in both. Right?
Yeah, I have masters in both.
Right.
I was very lucky because the Jewish community provided me with a nice scholarship. So
Right.
basically, when I finished, I was tuition free,
Right.
and it is a great feeling.
Did your wife go to graduate school? Or?
No, my wife didn't go to graduate school. She didn't finish her college in the former Soviet Union.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well, she almost, but I
Right.
think she had like one more year
Right.
in a dental program. But over here, she went and she got her bachelor degree in medical technology,
Right.
and she works as a microbiologist.
Right. So it's amazing, right?
Yes.
It's amazing. Everyone has a story, but this is such an unbelievable story to go from one part of the world to another.
But I also believe it's, it's like, and I always feel this way, and that's kind of what makes me happy about.
Right.
Like you get born, you already have kind of the path in front of you,
Right.
and you move in this path.
Right.
When you emigrate from one country to another, you have the opportunity to start anew.
Right.
Okay, but not just start anew. All of the experience that you got in your previous life, so to speak,
Right.
you can apply, and you might avoid those mistakes that you did before.
Right. It is. It's fascinating. My father always talks about second chances,
Exactly.
and it's amazing that and this is really just the beginning of the story at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's. I'm finding out wonderful things about. And so when did you move shortly to? When did you move to New York?
Well, first I needed to go to Brandeis.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about. So Brandeis was from what year?
2
to-
years,
2 years?
from 94 to 96.
Right.
And then after I finished
Yeah.
program in 96,
Yeah.
I found a job in New York, and we moved to New York.
And guess what?
Yes,
To be continued, because there's only one thing left to say.
absolutely.
That's a wrap. Good night, folks.